It's time for another tale of infidelity from the Heartbreak Diaries. Everyone has secrets. It's a part of human nature. Today's episode from the Chronicles of Heartbreak is titled, Can I Share a Hidden Truth with You? Story 1. This individual was found playing both sides of the field. My girl has no clue I've discovered her unfaithfulness. I wonder why she still keeps me in her life. My partner of 3 years has been unfaithful for a while now. I've verified her actions through videos, photographs, and texts. She's juggling 2 relationships with 2 different men. I'm uncertain if the other man is aware. Surprisingly, I'm neither upset nor hurt. It's been just a week since I found out, yet she acts as if nothing's changed. We currently have a financial commitment that I'm trying to get out from. Her relatives are aware of the other man and have kept it a secret from me. I'm puzzled as to why she hasn't parted ways with me. We don't owe each other anything. No finances are involved. I only offer her the emotional support that comes with being a partner. Comments from the community. The phrase, having their cake and eating it too, might shed some light on your situation. Some individuals who cheat relish the thrill of secrecy. They often believe they're cunning, driven by the ego boost they seek. Update from the original poster. I decided to face her, though I didn't reveal what I knew. Instead, I posed questions about her feelings for me and whether she'd ever betray me. I framed my queries so she wouldn't be suspicious, and she wasn't. At one point, I casually mentioned some events where her other partner might have been present, asking if she had any photos. She showed some, but only ones she felt safe sharing, without a hint of hesitation. Her lies persisted, but one statement resonated with me. Unexpectedly, she remarked, "You deserve someone better." Puzzled, I inquired, "If I deserve better, should I move on?" She responded, "Yes, you do deserve better, but I don't want you to go." I managed to record part of our exchange. Our conversation ended when I feigned illness and requested her to resolve our financial entanglement, though I had already taken care of it and was no longer financially bound to her. I asked her to let me know once she reached home. However, she didn't, prompting me to block her across all platforms. A direct confrontation with her seemed futile. She would have only told me more lies, try to manipulate me, or, even worse, turn her anger towards me. She was fully aware of her actions yet wanted to keep me in her life. Her lack of empathy was evident, and she even confessed to her selfish tendencies, secrecy, and her generalization that all men were unworthy, a sentiment she expressed herself. She identified as a feminist, but her actions didn't reflect that ethos. I suspect she had an argument with her other partner, which left her angry, given my final check of her social media activities prior to blocking her. It's ironic how she turned to me in those times. Still, I don't feel betrayed or heartbroken. This experience hasn't tarnished my perspective on women or relationships. I had envisioned a long-term future with her, but I'm relieved to have discovered the truth early on. Her behaviors now clearly stand out as warning signs. Past inconsistencies in her stories now make sense, explaining moments when I sensed something was off. Her aura was often negative, contrasting with the optimism I consistently brought to the relationship. This journey taught me a lot, leading me to resonate with a quote by Coach Corey Wayne. "The reality is, if people want to cheat, they're going to cheat, and there's nothing you can do about it. Weak, insecure, and disloyal people cheat. Strong, confident, loyal, and healthy people communicate like adults to work things out when their needs aren't being met or they're unhappy." She never voiced her concerns, whereas I was always open about mine. I hope my tale offers valuable insights to anyone reading, and I wish everyone the best. Comments from the community. It's intriguing to observe how the classic strategy of silently walking away, often termed ghosting, is remarkably effective with those who cheat. Regardless of the circumstances, they inherently understand the reason for being ghosted. The epiphany dawns when their attempts to contact are met with silence, calls go unanswered, and social media access is restricted. Such actions speak volumes, and one can't help but imagine their initial reaction to their actions. When faced with betrayal, it's empowering for the aggrieved party to simply sever ties, walk away, and never glance back. This approach often proves to be the most cathartic. Story 2. A deep dive into familial ties. I'm grappling with the possibility that I may not be my father's biological child. I'm unsure if this platform welcomes such personal tales, but I genuinely seek guidance from this community. Here's some background. It's evident that, at the very least, my mother had an emotional affair outside of her relationship with my father, lasting over 2 decades. Among my 3 siblings, I've always stood out in appearance, so much so that a former partner jokingly called me the milkman's child, highlighting the stark differences in our physical features. My mother has consistently attributed my distinct looks to genes from my great-grandmother on my paternal side. A few years back, around 2019, my mother ended her relationship with my father, placing the entirety of the blame on him for her unhappiness. She expressed regret over the entirety of their 28-year relationship, dating back to their initial courtship. My father, deeply hurt, inquired if her regrets extended to their children, to which she remained silent. Sometime later, she invited me for lunch, where she began to tell me her side of the story. She portrayed my father as a lonely man, devoid of close friends to confide in. She spun tales about her attempts to persuade him to seek counseling, her efforts to communicate and resolve their issues, and even the warnings she supposedly gave him before leaving. But the truth soon unraveled. She had rekindled a romance with a former flame from 3 decades ago, and had concealed this relationship from us. This ex-boyfriend remained a close family friend, primarily because his wife had left him for a renowned musician. After the musician's demise, the ex, along with his young son, briefly lived with us. This was a period when my father was often away, working overseas for extended durations. I've since learned that there were many instances when my mother and her ex had time alone. This revelation came to light when the ex's son reached out to me, expressing his shock over our parents' rekindled relationship. He recollected moments from our shared past, indicating that our parents had been alone together on multiple occasions. The separation process between his parents was particularly acrimonious. His mother, now financially well off thanks to the celebrity's wealth, was relentless in her pursuit, leveraging her newfound wealth. Another unsettling fact is the timing of my birth, which was a month delayed. The ex always treated me with special affection, considering me the daughter he never had. One gesture that stands out is when he gifted me his cherished first electric guitar. Receiving it at 13, I didn't think much of it. However, with the wisdom of adulthood, such a gesture feels oddly significant and indeed strange. The present conundrum. Several red flags have emerged over the years, casting doubt over my lineage. During a recent medical checkup, it came to light that my blood type was absent from my records, a discrepancy that could have arisen if my mother omitted it during my transition to my current healthcare provider, especially since they lack my childhood medical history. When questioned, my mother claimed ignorance about my blood type, stating I was never tested. Considering she has type O blood, it's standard protocol to test the infant's blood type at birth. Raising further suspicion, she vehemently discouraged me from undergoing ancestry testing. Her justification? My elder sister had already done it, and according to her, that was sufficient. This logic seemed flawed given that siblings can have significantly varied genetic ancestry. The dilemma I face now is how to approach my father. He holds a special place in my heart, and the past few years have been tumultuous for him, mainly due to my mother's actions. Directly confronting my mother seems futile, as she often paints herself as the perennial victim. Sharing my suspicions with my father is an option, but he is already grappling with revelations about my mother's ulterior motives during their relationship, primarily centered around financial gain. If it turns out that he isn't my biological father, should I divulge this to him? The potential impact on his emotional well-being weighs heavily on me. His professional life has already seen its fair share of upheavals. My gravest fear is that he might distance himself from me or harbor resentment. I've been skirting around this issue for some time, contemplating whether to maintain the status quo and forego any blood tests. Feedback from the community. Your worries are valid, OP. Genetics aside, the bond matters most. He's been the father figure in your life, nurturing and loving you. That's the essence of the relationship. It's truly unfortunate that your mother's actions have cast such a shadow. wishing you strength in navigating these uncertain waters. Here's an update. The passage of time brought with it more complexities and unexpected challenges. I had been on the verge of undergoing a DNA test, but doubts and fears held me back. The mere possibility, however slight, that he might not be my biological father was too overwhelming to face. The thought of inflicting more pain on him was unbearable. Recently, my father confided in me about a startling discovery. While going through an old computer, he stumbled upon a trove of emails, passionate letters, and poems that my mother had penned for the man she ultimately chose over him. These correspondences spanned from the mid-90s to the early 2000s, essentially covering the period between the birth of my elder sister, his firstborn, and shortly after my own birth. In these letters, my mother lamented the sterility of their union, accused my father of lacking genuine affection for her, and confessed her own dwindling feelings for him. She described a facade she felt compelled to maintain. My father's heartbreak was palpable. Every cherished family memory now bears the stain of her underlying discontent. The foundational truths he believed in have been upended. This revelation has rekindled the anguish I feel. My father's nostalgia and cherished past now seem to be overshadowed by betrayal and deceit. While I could undergo a test to find out the truth, it would be impossible to keep my family in the dark about the results. My indifference towards the potential fallout my mother might face is evident. I believe she should bear the consequences of her actions. However, the potential emotional toll on my father is what holds me back. Some might see my hesitation as self-centered, but I genuinely feel this might be for the greater good. In the grand scheme of things, I am and will always be his daughter, regardless of the biological ties. I firmly believe that we define our own families, and mere genetics don't dictate familial bonds. True family is about the sacrifices we're willing to make for one another, and in that sense, my blood resonates with his essence. I yearn for closer on this agonising chapter, and aim to create new, untainted memories with my father, hoping that his golden years aren't eclipsed by her self-absorption. May my family find solace and healing. Comments from the community. Your unwavering support and deep affection for your father are truly admirable. Irrespective of the biological facts, the bond you two share is unshakable. Stay resilient and treasure every moment with him. No matter the outcome, remember that the depth of love, understanding, and the memories you've built together are the true measures of family. You've showcased immense strength and grace in navigating this intricate situation, sending you and your father all the positive energy and hopes for brighter days ahead. Story 3. As time unfolds, more layers of my family's intricate past emerge. The weight of these revelations, intertwined with personal struggles, sometimes feels overwhelming. Yet, it's the unwavering support from this community and the unbreakable bond with my father that keeps me grounded. I hope that sharing my journey offers solace to others in similar situations and underscores the belief that family goes beyond just blood ties. The days following my discovery were filled with introspection. Sleepless nights were spent pondering the intricacies of relationships and the fragility of trust. Questions about my identity and the nature of love occupied my thoughts. Despite the turmoil, one thing became abundantly clear: my father's unwavering love for me. One evening, as we sat together watching old family videos, tears welled up in my eyes. The memories, both bitter and sweet, flooded back. Sensing my emotions, my father gently took my hand and whispered, "No matter what, you'll always be my little girl." That simple affirmation reinforced my belief in the enduring power of love, even in the face of life's most challenging revelations. Feedback from the community. Stories like yours touch the very core of our hearts. They remind us that while life is unpredictable and often challenging, the bonds we forge with those who truly love us remain unbreakable. Cherish your father, for he is a testament to the idea that love transcends all. May you both find peace and happiness in each other's company. As weeks turned into months, the initial shock began to subside, giving way to a newfound clarity. I found solace in understanding that our identities are shaped not just by our genetic heritage but by the experiences we share, the challenges we overcome, and the love we give and receive. I decided to delve deeper into my family's history, not in search of biological ties, but to unearth the stories, struggles, and triumphs that define generations. With my father by my side, we embarked on this journey together, revisiting old family homes, poring over ancient letters, and reconnecting with distant relatives. Each discovery was a testament to the resilience and strength of our lineage. Comments from the community. Your journey is a beautiful reminder that families are built on love, trust, and shared experiences. While our past can provide insights, it's the present moments we cherish and the future we build that truly define us. Keep embracing your journey with an open heart, and may you find countless more stories that reinforce your bond with your father. One particular day stands out in my memory. We were in the attic of my great-grandmother's house, a place filled with dusty boxes and faded photographs. As we sifted through the remnants of the past, I stumbled upon a diary. The worn-out pages contained the heartfelt words of a woman from a bygone era, detailing her life's joys and sorrows. It was my great-great-grandmother's diary. Reading her entries, I felt an overwhelming connection. Her struggles with identity, love, and acceptance echoed my own. It was as if time had bridged our worlds, allowing me to see that the essence of human emotions remains unchanged across generations. One entry spoke of a child she had lost but never forgotten. The pain in her words was palpable, reminding me of the importance of cherishing every moment with our loved ones. Another spoke of a profound love she had for a man, not her husband, yet their bond was undeniable. Comments from the community. It's incredible how stories from the past can resonate so deeply with our present. These tales remind us of the timeless nature of human emotions and experiences. Your journey of discovery is not just about understanding your lineage, but also about understanding yourself. Through these stories, you're learning that love, pain, hope, and resilience are threads that bind us all, regardless of time and place. As the seasons changed, so did the depth of my understanding. One chilly afternoon, while sipping on hot cocoa and surrounded by stacks of old letters and photographs, my father and I stumbled upon a collection of handwritten songs. These were composed by a distant relative, an aspiring musician whose dreams were cut short by the adversities of his time. Each lyric was filled with passion, echoing tales of love, loss, and hope. My father, with a hint of nostalgia in his eyes, recounted stories he had heard about this relative, a man of immense talent and heart, whose melodies were once the life of family gatherings. Inspired, I took it upon myself to bring those songs back to life. Collaborating with a local musician, we set the old lyrics to contemporary tunes. What emerged was a beautiful blend of the past and present, a testament to the enduring nature of art and emotion. Comments from the community. Music has a magical way of connecting souls across time. By reviving these songs, you're not only paying tribute to your ancestor, but also ensuring that his spirit and stories live on. Your journey is a poignant reminder that while life is fleeting, art and love are eternal. The revived songs soon found their way into local gatherings and cafes. The heartfelt melodies, combined with the stories behind them, resonated with many. Before long, there was a growing demand for a recorded version. With the support of my father and the community, we embarked on a project to produce an album titled Echoes from the Past. The recording process was an emotional roller coaster. Each session was filled with laughter, tears, and moments of reflection. As the notes flowed, it felt as though the spirits of our ancestors were right there with us, guiding our hands and hearts. Upon its release, the album received widespread appreciation. It wasn't just about the music, it was the history, the emotions, and the connection it established with its listeners. Schools began to use it as a resource to teach students about the importance of preserving family histories and understanding our roots. Comments from the community. Your project transcends mere music. It's a bridge between generations, a testament to the fact that emotions and stories are timeless. By intertwining the past with the present, you've created a legacy that will inspire many for years to come. It's a beautiful reminder of the richness of our histories and the boundless possibilities when we honor and celebrate them. The familiar, comforting scent of the living room was disrupted by the pungent aroma of fresh coffee. Its bitterness mirrored the atmosphere. It wasn't our usual routine. We sat on opposite sides of our plush gray sofa, staring into the void, avoiding each other's gaze. The curtains billowed softly as a gust of wind punctuated the charged silence. "James," my wife began, choosing her words carefully, "I've found comfort, a sort of solace with someone else." My heart thudded, a hollow drumbeat in an otherwise silent world. "It's been going on for some months," she admitted. I felt as if the ground had shifted beneath me. It was like being on a boat in choppy waters without a life jacket. I took a deep breath, trying to gather my thoughts. She continued, her voice shaky yet determined. "I've been doing a lot of thinking. I believe that an open relationship might be the best course for both of us. Maybe it can even bring us closer." The idea felt foreign and uncomfortable. Images flashed through my mind, our first date, our wedding day, the promises we made to each other. Was this the same woman who vowed to forsake all others? "I know it's a lot to process," she whispered, tears streaming down her cheeks. "But I believe this could revitalize our relationship, breathe new life into it." I looked around our living room. The walls, painted a calm azure, were filled with photos of our life together. Vacations, family gatherings, shared milestones. Each snapshot was a testament to a life that now felt threatened. How could she believe that introducing other partners would salvage our love? My mind raced, grappling with a rush of emotions. "Is it something I did? Something I didn't do?" I finally managed to ask. She hesitated before responding. "It's not about fault, James. It's about growth, about experiencing life in all its facets." "But at what cost?" I countered, my voice quivering with emotion. Our vows meant something to me. They still do. The weight of the situation was suffocating. The woman I had shared my life with for over a decade, my confidant and companion, had shattered my trust. I wasn't ready to hear her out, to delve into this new dynamic she was suggesting. "I need time," I murmured, my voice choked. "I need you to leave for a bit. I need space." Her eyes widened in surprise, and she opened her mouth to speak. But no words came out. Instead, she nodded, her face etched with a mix of sadness and understanding. I watched as she packed an overnight bag, the reality of our fractured relationship weighing heavily on my shoulders. The house, which had always been our sanctuary, now felt cold and unfamiliar. As she walked out, a drizzle started, the heavens weeping with me. The door clicked shut, and I was left alone, my thoughts a whirlwind of confusion and heartbreak. After what felt like hours, I heard a knock on the door. I hadn't expected any visitors. Wearily, I trudged over and opened it. To my astonishment, it was my in-laws, Kate and Robert. They wore expressions of concern, mixed with a tinge of annoyance. I stepped aside, allowing them in, my mind racing about the reasons for their unexpected visit. "James," Robert began, his deep voice carrying an authoritative tone. "We heard about your disagreement with Emily. She's distraught. We wanted to talk." "Talk about what?" I asked defensively, suddenly feeling like a cornered animal. Was this an intervention? "About your refusal to consider an open relationship," Kate interjected sharply. "Do you think you're the first couple to go through this?" I blinked in surprise, my confusion deepening. "What do you mean?" Kate and Robert exchanged a glance, the weight of unspoken secrets hanging in the air between them. Taking a deep breath, Kate began. "Robert and I have been in an open relationship for years." The revelation stunned me into silence. I tried to wrap my head around the idea, memories of family gatherings, holidays, and dinners replaying in my mind. There were no signs, no hints, nothing. "It has strengthened our bond," Robert added. "It's not about replacing one's partner, but enriching the relationship." "But why didn't you ever tell Emily?" I stammered, trying to process the information. It was our personal choice, our secret, Kate responded, a touch of defensiveness in her tone. But when Emily shared her feelings with us, we thought it was important to provide her with our perspective. I felt like I was drowning in a sea of emotions. Betrayal, confusion, and anger swirled within me. "And you support this?" I asked incredulously, staring at them both. "We support our daughter," Robert replied calmly, "and we want what's best for her." Kate's eyes narrowed, a spark of anger evident. "She's only trying to meet her needs, James. It's selfish of you not to even consider it." I was taken aback by her blatant criticism. How had things escalated to this point? My marriage was on the brink, and instead of support, I felt more isolated than ever. "It's not about selfishness," I replied, my voice rising in frustration. "It's about trust, boundaries, and the vows we made to each other." Kate huffed, clearly unimpressed. Robert, ever the diplomat, interjected, "We're not saying it's the only way, James, but consider it. Talk it out. Don't make hasty decisions." The room was thick with tension, each of us entrenched in our perspectives. I felt cornered, attacked from all sides. The walls of my own home seemed to close in on me. "I need to think," I muttered, my voice breaking. "Please, leave." Robert nodded, placing a reassuring hand on my shoulder. "Take your time, son. We just want you both to be happy." As they left, the silence of the house was deafening. I felt like a stranger in my own life, caught in a web of confessions and expectations. It was time for me to confide in someone who would be on my side, my father. The following day, I decided to visit my parents. The familiar drive to their house was now a refuge, a path back to memories of simpler times. As I pulled into the driveway, I noticed my father in the garden, carefully pruning his roses, a hobby he'd cherished since retirement. "Hey, Dad," I called out as I approached him. His face, etched with lines of wisdom and age, lit up with a welcoming smile. "James, it's been a while," he remarked, wiping his hands on his apron. "What brings you here?" I hesitated for a moment, unsure of how to begin. Taking a deep breath, I said, "I need advice, Dad, about Emily." His smile faded, replaced by a look of concern. What happened? We sat on the patio, the scent of roses enveloping us. Pouring out the recent events felt cathartic, and as I spoke about Emily's confession, our fight, and the intervention from my in-laws, my father listened intently, occasionally nodding. When I finished, he took a moment to gather his thoughts. "James," he began, "marriage is a partnership, built on trust and understanding. Both parties should be comfortable with the decisions they make together. It shouldn't be an ultimatum." "I agree, Dad," I replied, my voice filled with frustration. "But what do I do? She's so adamant about this open relationship idea." He sighed. "You need to consider what's best for you. Your happiness and mental well-being are paramount. If you can't see yourself in that kind of relationship, it's okay to stand your ground." "I'm just so hurt," I whispered, my voice breaking. "And now, there's something else I need to talk to you about." I hesitated before sharing the comments my mother had made about my physical inadequacy. It was a topic I hadn't ever imagined discussing with my father, but now I felt I needed his perspective. He looked taken aback, his eyebrows knitting in confusion. "Your mother said that?" I nodded. "It's been eating away at me." Dad's expression darkened. "I'll have a word with her. Those comments are uncalled for. But remember, son, your worth isn't determined by anyone's comments, not even from family. You are more than enough." I felt a weight lifting, just a bit. Dad's words were the balm I needed. "Thanks, Dad. I knew I could count on you." Before I left, he added, "Consider speaking to a lawyer, just to know where you stand. If things take a turn for the worse, it's good to be prepared." I nodded, thanking him again, and made my way back home, feeling a little stronger than before. The drive downtown was a reflective one. Buildings and streets that once held memories of date nights and weekend outings with Emily now seemed tainted with our recent tribulations. I parked outside the law firm my father had recommended, taking a moment to breathe before stepping inside. The reception area was polished, an ambiance of professionalism and quiet authority. A receptionist guided me to a spacious office, where a middle-aged lawyer named Mr. Sullivan sat behind a mahogany desk. "James," he extended a hand. "I've known your father for years. He spoke highly of you. What brings you here?" For the second time in 2 days, I found myself unburdening my story. But this was different. This wasn't about seeking comfort. This was about understanding my rights. Mr. Sullivan listened intently, occasionally jotting down notes. Once I finished, he leaned back in his chair, steepling his fingers. "Firstly," he began, "I'm sorry you're going through this. It's never easy. Regarding open relationships, they can be legally complex. While they aren't illegal, they can complicate issues like custody, property, and alimony in the event of a divorce." I swallowed hard. "And what about infidelity?" His expression grew solemn. "Adultery can indeed play a role in divorce proceedings, especially in terms of alimony and property division. However, you'd need evidence, and each case is unique." He walked me through various scenarios, and I realized how intricate and messy the legal side of marriage could be. "James," he said after a long discussion, "the most crucial aspect here is consent. If you're not comfortable with an open relationship, you shouldn't be coerced or forced into one. If reconciliation seems distant and divorce becomes the only solution, remember to act in your best interests, emotionally and legally." I nodded, thanking him for his time. As I left the firm, the city lights began to glow, twilight settling in. The gravity of the situation weighed on me, but with knowledge came empowerment. I was no longer in the dark. Back home, I found a letter from Emily on the kitchen counter. The elegant handwriting I had grown fond of over the years now seemed distant. "James, I've gone to my parents for a few days. I think we both need space to think. I still believe in us. Please think about everything." I sank into a chair, the magnitude of our issues looming large. The path ahead was unclear, but one thing was certain. I needed to stand my ground. The house felt eerily silent in Emily's absence. The familiar scent of her perfume no longer permeated the rooms. Days blurred into nights, and I found myself engrossed in work and random hobbies just to keep my mind occupied. A week had gone by when I heard a knock on the door. I opened it to find my in-laws, Diane and Mark, standing outside, looking as polished and confident as ever. It was unexpected, but I ushered them in, trying to maintain some semblance of civility. Mark cleared his throat. "We're here because we're worried about our daughter. She's devastated." Diane, ever the dominant one, added, "We heard about your little talk with a lawyer. You should have come to us first. We could have given you some advice." I bristled. "This is between Emily and me. It's our marriage." She raised an eyebrow. "Yes, but it's our daughter." Mark intervened. "Look, James, all we want is for Emily to be happy. We believe that an open relationship can strengthen bonds. It's worked for us." "And that's your choice," I retorted, my voice shaking with barely suppressed anger. "But it's not for everyone. And the fact that Emily went behind my back, that she broke our vows, is unacceptable." Diane's face grew stern. "You should have met her needs. Instead, you pushed her away with your traditional views. Do you know how devastated she was when you asked her to leave?" Mark took Diane's hand, trying to calm her. "Let's keep this civil." But the floodgates had opened. "You don't understand, James. She was trying to save your marriage, and you've taken it as an insult." I clenched my fists, struggling to hold back tears of frustration. "Your daughter lied to me, betrayed my trust. I loved her, gave her everything, and she threw it back in my face." Diane stood up, her gaze icy. "It's clear where you stand. We just wanted to see if there was any hope left." I replied, "The hope was shattered the moment she decided to lie." After a few moments of tense silence, Mark and Diane left. The weight of the confrontation settled heavy in the room. As I tried to process the interaction, My phone vibrated. It was a message from my father. "Stay strong, son. You deserve happiness and respect. Remember that." The message was simple, but it provided the strength I needed. I was not alone in this battle. Nights were the hardest. The empty space beside me in our bed was a constant reminder of Emily's absence. Memories of our happier days would flit into my mind, only to be overpowered by the reality of our situation. One such night, I found myself browsing through old photos on my laptop, our smiles from our honeymoon, our shared joy when we bought our first house. The happiness that radiated from those pictures felt like a lifetime ago. Suddenly, a notification popped up, a new email. It was from a name I didn't recognize. Hesitantly, I clicked it open. The content of the email left me speechless. It was an anonymous confession. "I've been seeing Emily for the past 6 months. I never knew she was married until recently. I thought you should know the truth." The message continued with details only someone close to Emily would know. My heart raced. The identity of the sender remained a mystery, but their words made a painful situation even more agonizing. I had to find out who this person was. Their knowledge was intimate, and if they were genuine, confronting them might give me some answers. The following day, I engaged a private investigator to trace the origin of the email. I needed to know the identity of this anonymous figure, not out of vengeance, but to find closure. While the investigation was ongoing, my mother invited me over for dinner. Though I was hesitant, given our last encounter, I hoped this would be a chance for reconciliation. That evening, as we sat around the dining table, she seemed more restrained, her eyes avoiding mine. But as the meal progressed, she broke the silence. "James, I was wrong." She swallowed hard. "Your father and I talked. Your marriage is your business, and I shouldn't have intervened." I looked at her, my defenses dropping. "Mom, it hurt when you took Emily's side, but I understand the desire to protect your loved ones. I just wish it hadn't come at the cost of our relationship." She reached across the table, squeezing my hand. "I'm sorry. I hope we can move past this." Though it wasn't a complete resolution, it was a step towards mending our strained relationship. A few days later, the investigator provided a report. The email had come from a local IP address belonging to someone named Alex. The name didn't ring any bells. How was he connected to Emily? Why did he feel the need to reach out? I needed answers. I decided to confront Alex. With the address in hand, I made my way to his place, my heart pounding with anticipation. The house was a modest one, situated in a quaint suburban neighborhood. As I stood outside, my palms sweating, I wondered if confronting Alex was a good idea. But the need for clarity propelled me forward. I knocked, and after what felt like an eternity, the door opened. A man in his mid-30s with sandy blonde hair and deep-set blue eyes regarded me with a mixture of surprise and apprehension. "Can I help you?" he asked. "I believe you can, Alex," I replied, trying to keep my voice steady. "I received an email from you about Emily." His face paled, his lips pressing into a thin line. "Come in," he said quietly. The interior of his home was tidy, with pictures of landscapes adorning the walls. He motioned for me to take a seat on the couch, and he took the opposite chair. "I assume you're here for an explanation," he began, running a hand through his hair. "Emily and I met at a local coffee shop. It was innocent at first. Casual conversations that evolved into deeper ones. I had no idea she was married." "And when did you find out?" I asked, trying to keep the bitterness from my voice. He sighed. "A few weeks ago. We were at her place and I stumbled upon a wedding photo of you two. I confronted her, and she confessed everything." "Why email me? Why not just end things?" He looked down, his voice shaky. "Because I felt you deserved the truth. I've been on your side of things before, and I know how it feels to be in the dark." Our conversation continued, with Alex divulging the details of their relationship. It was a hard pill to swallow, but in an odd way, speaking with him provided a sort of closure. "Look," he said finally, "I'm ending things with Emily. Not just because she's married, but because it's clear she's got a lot of personal stuff to work out. I truly am sorry, though. I nodded, standing up. Thanks for being honest, Alex. That's more than I can say for some people. Exiting his house, a whirlwind of emotions consumed me. Betrayal, anger, sadness. But amidst it all, a glimmer of hope emerged. If I could face Alex and hear his side of the story, I could face anything. With newfound determination, I decided it was time to meet with Emily. I needed to hear her side, to understand her choices, and decide the future of our relationship. Emily's mother's house had always been a comforting place for me, a place of warmth, laughter, and love, where I felt welcomed and cherished. But today, as I approached the door, a sense of foreboding washed over me. Taking a deep breath, I rang the doorbell. After a few moments, Emily herself answered, her face a mix of shock and apprehension. "We need to talk," I said simply. She hesitated for a moment and then stepped aside, letting me in. We moved to the living room, a familiar place where we had spent countless hours together. I took a seat on one end of the couch, and she sat at the other. Silence hung in the air, both of us unsure of how to begin. Finally, Emily spoke. "I know why you're here," she began, her voice quivering. "I never wanted it to come to this, to hurt you." "You have a peculiar way of showing it," I replied, my voice edged with bitterness. She sighed deeply. "I know this is going to sound cliched, but it wasn't supposed to happen. Alex was just a friend, a distraction. I felt lost, and he was there, but I never intended to fall for him." A part of me wanted to lash out, to express the hurt and betrayal I felt, but another part, the one that still loved her deeply, wanted to understand. "Why didn't you just come to me? Why go to someone else?" She looked away, tears forming in her eyes. "Because I was scared. Scared that you would see me differently, that you would judge me. I was struggling with my feelings and my identity. The idea of an open relationship, it wasn't just about being with other people. It was about discovering who I am." I leaned back, absorbing her words. It was a lot to take in. "Your parents, the open relationship they have, did that influence you?" She nodded slowly. "Partially. I saw the connection they shared, despite being with other people. I thought, maybe it would work for us too." I let out a bitter laugh. "So, instead of discussing it with me, you decided to go behind my back?" She flinched at my words. "I know. It was wrong. I didn't know how to bring it up." The room was thick with tension. So many emotions, so many unsaid words. "You know the most painful part?" I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. "It's not the betrayal, but the fact that you didn't trust our bond enough to come to me with your feelings." Emily broke down, tears streaming down her face. "I'm so sorry," she sobbed. We sat in silence, lost in our own thoughts, grappling with the weight of our emotions. I was packing my bags, feeling the weight of every memory attached to every item in our shared apartment. The photos of our vacations, the knickknacks we'd picked up during our travels together, the gifts we'd given each other over the years. It all felt like a painful reminder of what once was. Just as I was zipping up my suitcase, my phone buzzed. It was a message from my dad. "Son, come over. We need to talk." I hesitated for a moment, but the gravity of the message was undeniable. Within minutes, I was in my car, driving to my childhood home. Dad was waiting for me in the living room, a glass of whiskey in his hand. The dim light from the lampshade cast a soft glow around him, making him look older and wearier than I remembered. "Sit," he said, pointing to the chair opposite him. I obeyed, feeling like a child being reprimanded. He took a deep breath. "Your mother told me about her past, about the comments she made regarding your physical inadequacy." I flinched, not ready to reopen that wound. Dad continued, "I'm not here to make excuses for her, but I do want you to understand something." He paused, taking a moment to gather his thoughts. Your mother and I have had our ups and downs. No marriage is perfect. But what I've realized over the years is that love isn't just about passion or romance. It's about understanding, forgiveness, and growth. I frowned, not sure where he was going with this. He took another sip of his whiskey before continuing. Your mother made a mistake, one that she deeply regrets. She's been carrying this guilt for years, and while it's not my place to ask for your forgiveness on her behalf, I do ask that you try to understand. But Dad, I interjected, my voice choked with emotion. She hurt me. Both of them did. He nodded, his eyes filled with pain. I know, son, and it's okay to feel hurt, to feel betrayed, but don't let that pain consume you. Don't let it define your relationships or your future. We sat in silence for a moment, lost in our thoughts. Finally, he spoke again. Whatever decision you make regarding Emily, do it from a place of clarity, not anger or vengeance. I looked up, meeting his gaze. There was so much wisdom in his eyes, so much love. Thanks, Dad, I whispered, feeling a weight lifting off my chest. The evening sun painted the horizon with shades of amber and crimson as I stood outside Emily's apartment. The conversation with my father weighed on my mind, pushing me to confront the unresolved feelings and thoughts that had consumed me over the past few weeks. I rang the bell. Moments later, the door opened to reveal a visibly shocked Emily. Her eyes, red and swollen, spoke of many nights spent crying. Despite everything, my heart ached seeing her like this. "Why are you here?" she whispered, her voice trembling. Taking a deep breath, I replied, "To talk. We can't leave things like this." She hesitated, then stepped aside, allowing me in. We sat opposite each other, the tension palpable. I broke the silence. "Emily, I understand you had your reasons for proposing an open relationship. But what hurt me was the secrecy, the betrayal." She looked down, tears streaming down her face. "I know, and I'm so sorry. But when I saw my parents and how they managed to make their open relationship work, I thought it could save us too. But I now realize that it was a mistake." I sighed. "Emily, I've been doing a lot of thinking, talking to my dad, reflecting on everything. And I've realized that our relationship, our marriage, it wasn't perfect. We both made mistakes. But I can't move forward with an open relationship. That's not who I am." She nodded slowly. "I understand, and I respect your decision." We sat in silence for a moment, taking in the weight of the conversation. "Do you think we can find our way back to each other? Start fresh, maybe with therapy?" I asked, hope evident in my voice. Emily met my gaze, her eyes filled with uncertainty and pain. "I don't know," she whispered, "but we can try." The journey ahead was uncertain. But for the first time in weeks, there was a glimmer of hope. A chance to rebuild, to heal, to rediscover the love we once shared. The road to healing was not going to be easy, but we were willing to take the chance. And as the sun set, casting its warm, golden glow upon us, we took our first steps towards a new beginning. Let me give you all an update. Months turned into years. The wounds of betrayal and pain slowly began to heal, replaced with understanding and trust. Emily and I underwent intensive therapy, working through our issues, understanding our mistakes, and finding ways to communicate better. Our relationship evolved, strengthened by the trials we had faced. And while the past could never be forgotten, it became a testament to our resilience, our ability to overcome even the most challenging circumstances. The scars remained, but they no longer defined us. Instead, they became a reminder of the journey we had undertaken, the lessons learned, and the love rediscovered. Life is unpredictable, filled with challenges and trials, but it is also filled with moments of love, joy, and happiness. And in the end, it's these moments that truly matter.